It is time to strengthen your faith, deepen your understanding of the Word of God, move from poverty to prosperity, and rest in the wealthy place. Join Dr. Osara Emafai, the lead pastor of the Lakeview Foursquare Gospel Church, Lagos, Nigeria, and founder of Ed John School of Management, and alumnus of Oxford University, Cranfield University, Hertfordshire University, and University of Lagos, for an informative, educative, and impactful program, Wealthy Place. Join us on Foursquare TV.
I want to welcome you to today's episode of The Wealthy Place. And today's episode is the fourth in the series of Knowing Yourself. In the last three series, I moved step by step in the way in which you know yourself, you know your values, you know how you live those values, you know who you are, and knowing who you are, you also need to ask from your maker, because you didn't make yourself. So who you are, what is your temperament, what is the style that you like in terms of working with people or delivering value. So all those we treated within the first three episodes within that series of Knowing Yourself. I will be concluding that series today on this episode. And this episode is focused on emotional intelligence. This is to conclude, the series on Knowing Yourself. What is emotional intelligence? It's important to know that because I have a professor friend of mine who is a professor of emotional intelligence. He actually did his PhD on emotional intelligence. But the well-known work on emotional intelligence is the one that was done by Goldman. And so, if you then go on to, some of the seminal articles, particularly from Harvard and all that, you will see the work of Goldman there. But let's just start from the beginning. Emotional intelligence was first defined by two people, two gentlemen. One was called Peter, the second was called John. These two people defined it within the concept of a psychology theory. They saw it as a theory of psychology. And so, emotional intelligence was then defined by these two gentlemen. I told you one is called Peter, but his surname is actually called Salovey. Then John, the surname is called Mayer. And these two people, and said emotional intelligence is the ability to perceive emotions. So emotional intelligence is the ability to perceive emotions. Okay, whose emotions? Number one, you've known yourself. But if you need to then work with people, you need also to know the emotions of these people. Because you are not working in a world in which you are just by yourself. You are not working in a world in which you do not have a family. You are not working, if you're in a church, where there are no other people, workers there. And so it's important that you don't only know yourself, you also need to know how to relate with other people. And that is where this very particular topic, emotional intelligence, becomes extremely important. Now, what are emotions? Emotion is a strong feeling. A strong feeling. You have a very strong, it's about what you feel. It's not about your thought. It's not about your thought. It's about what you feel. It's about the feeling deriving from circumstances. Either the circumstance of your birth or the circumstances in which you found yourself. So, your mood and the kind of relationships that you have. All those things can help construct your emotions, the emotion that you have. So, an emotion You know, I'm talking on what these two gentlemen said because I'm going to come on to my own thought on this. I want to first establish, the foundation. It's not an original idea to me, but of course I work with it and I know that it works. So, they said emotion is the part of a person's character that consists of their feelings as opposed to their thoughts. It's not about what you think of the world. It's not about what you think about anything. It's essentially about the emotions that you carry and exhibit. And they went further, the two of them, to assess and generate emotions, that it is your responsibility to assess and generate emotions that can in fact be in line with your thoughts, or can in fact actually help your thought process to get better. You see, he said to understand the emotions and emotional knowledge, you need to know how to assess others. He said to reflectively regulate emotions so as to promote emotional intellectual growth is a responsibility that you owe to the world and to yourself. To be a purposeful player in the space in which you are called. Now, that was, as I said, was from an article written by gentleman Mayer and the other man Salovey. It was in 1997 that article came out. But in some years later, Daniel Goleman, who is now called the father of emotional intelligence, went and developed, a very intellectual paper, an academic paper that was peer-reviewed, that everywhere in the world, people were just using and trying it. And they then found the strength in its construct, and also find the challenges in that construct. Now, in Daniel Goleman's own theory, he then said emotional intelligence are 5 components. 5 components. But he then said that emotional intelligence is the ability to acquire knowledge. So you can see the way he was framing it, Daniel Goleman, is the ability to acquire knowledge about your own emotions or strong feelings. So if emotional intelligence is that, what is intelligence? We already know emotions about your feeling. What is intelligence? Intelligence is about ability to acquire. When you are an intelligent person, you can easily acquire knowledge. And you can apply that knowledge and skill to making your life better and making the world better. So, emotional intelligence, therefore, you already know yourself. But you are able to now develop your intelligence, your capacity or ability to acquire knowledge and wisdom about your emotional makeup and strong feelings in such a way that rather than they being disruptive, they become constructive. Because there are people whose emotions destroy. We have seen it again and again. Emotions. When I was pastor in the United Kingdom, just a little step back. We asked one of our fathers in Nigeria to come in to minister at our church in London. That time we were living in Harrow, northern part of London. So where we were pastoring. And I want to thank God, Reverend Akindele was my associate pastor in that church. And then we now had a church secretary. And the church secretary came very late. The gentleman that we invited, one of our fathers, had preached 2 preachings on that day. Down the preaching in the nearby church, preaching in our church. And when he was finishing, the secretary and the wife and children were entering the church. And we told them that wasn't good enough. But what did they do? Because of their very strong emotions, Pride. Because I'm going to be taking that in the next episode. I'm going to be talking about pride. Because of that, the woman told the husband, for us to be told that we're late to church, we will never come to this church again. And they walked out of that church. They never returned. So you see, emotions can be disruptive, emotions can be constructive. But your capacity to manage your emotions from being disruptive and destructive, look the word, disruptive and destructive, to becoming constructive. When you can actually develop the knowledge and capacity to grow your emotion in that direction, you find you are better able to work with people. And when you are better able to work with people, you find you achieve more. You see, for anyone that want to go fast, we know this is something that is in the public domain now. We know about it. You want to go fast, go alone. But you want to go far, you need to go with others. You must have a team. As brilliant as Messi is, paid for how many millions? Hundreds of millions. If you put him in the field alone, no goalkeeper, nobody else there in the field, then you use half of the money to buy 10 other people to stay on the other side. You will find those people will be scoring and scoring. Messi will never score a single goal. What is the lesson from that? Is that you alone, God did not create you alone. You alone can't change the world. You need others. And that's why the importance of emotional intelligence. I know myself. I need to know these other people's emotions so that in my own emotions should not be disruptive for me not to be able to know how to relate with them. In such a way we can achieve common purpose that will make the world better, that will bring a difference in the world. Now, see what Goldman told us, in Daniel Goleman, then he was the one who popularized it. And of course, I really never heard about it until when I had the privilege and the opportunity to study in Oxford University. So it was one of his paper we did, one of the modules, his paper was presented to us, because you have to access it. You can still access it in Google Scholar. For those of you who want to read the original document, you might find it in Google Scholar. Just go to Google Scholar, say there, maybe you will pay some little amount of money for it. So you can read it and see the detail of this. And it's been critiqued for many years now. And in all the critique, they can actually see the goodness, in it, and also some areas where we need a fair thinking on emotional intelligence. Now, the 5 components that Goldman gave. Number 1, in that toolkit, is number 1 thing, there is self-awareness. It goes back to the earlier episodes in the series of Know Yourself. Self-awareness. What is self-awareness? Self-awareness is the ability to recognize and understand, not just recognition, to understand personal moods and emotions and drives. So you understand what your emotions are, your mood, your drive, what your motivation is, and you then also know of the others that you're interacting with. That's what it means self-awareness, as well as the effect on other people. So it's not just knowing the others, but what is the effect of my own self-awareness or who I am on the other people. So when you are in ministry, is my own, if I know myself, am I a disruptive person? I'm making the other person not to perform well. Or do I play in a way in which the other person gets better? I am a fan of soccer, and I used to be a fan of Real Madrid. And so I went to their stadium, the Bernabeu, to go and watch. during the days when Figo, Scolari, Zinedine, those were the stars. And I could see how, as a team, how they knew each other. And how Scolari with Rimbo, and how Figo will play his own part for Zinedine to shine. And I then had to write. After that experience, I then wrote a book on what I call the Zinedine paradigm. I wrote a book on it. And it's about a power teamwork. How do I work with myself and work with others? It starts from self-awareness. Goldman says self-awareness, ability to recognize and understand the personal moods and emotions and drives, as well as their effect on other people. Beautiful. I tell you, I feel extremely excited when I'm looking at this. Now, self-awareness includes self-confidence, realistic assessment of self, and sometimes self-deprecating sense of humor. You know, sometimes you need to have self-compassion. Yes, you have weaknesses, but be compassionate to yourself. And you can run some of those weaknesses in humor. Yesterday, I was trying to fix, the Foursquare TV on my phone. I was trying to go through it to fix it. I couldn't quite. How do I get the app onto my phone? So, and I said, right there, I told my wife, I said, I'm going to call Femi to help me on phone. That was yesterday. My wife said, give it to me. Let me look at it. Within a meeting, my wife fixed it and gave it back to me. Fixed it on her phone and gave it back. I said, this skill, how did you? She is so technically savvy. And this woman read linguistics. She didn't read technical things. So, I then had to, in humor, say, me, I like all day. In this way, I don't understand these things. All the technical things I don't know. I said, your children must have taken all the technical things from you. Because some of our children are so technical as well. I said, I don't understand those technical things. Download, don't download, take app. I sometimes when they are saying it's all over my head. But thankfully you are there to help me do it. So you must have that self-deprecating, I call it self-deprecating sense of humor. Sometimes don't take yourself too seriously. And if there's one thing that I really, really enjoy, one of the things I enjoy with Reverend Samboiji's ministration is the way in which he uses humor. Sometimes. I remember particularly that one when he was talking about how he would go to the grandmother's house to go and eat. That's why he was in a boarding house. And he would go to somewhere to go and eat. And when he then gets to this thing, he would then just raise up his nose. What food did they prepare there? He would just raise up his nose. What food are they preparing? He said, there is beans. He said, because I'm already loaded. You will see the humor in it. Humor is powerful. But can you actually use it in a self-deprecating manner? You don't really feel a sense of devaluation. So self-awareness depends on one's ability to monitor one's own emotional state and to correctly identify the name and name one's emotion. Since self-awareness is necessary for everyone. If you really want to prosper on earth, you need self-awareness. If you really want to do well, you want to go far, self-awareness. Since it's necessary, realistic self-assessment is very central to that. Without self-awareness, no realistic self-assessment can actually hold. The presence of realistic self-assessment is a sure sign that you are self-aware. It's the evidence that you are self-aware. That is the first part in Goldman's typology, or if you like, Goldman's thought on emotional intelligence. The second issue he raised is on self-regulation. Self-regulation. That is the ability to control or redirect disruptive impulses and moods. The propensity and ability to suspend judgment and to think before acting. If you find so many people act before they think, anybody who acts before he thinks does not have the emotional intelligence in full, does not have this component that God must say the second component, self-regulation. And do you know, interestingly, this self-regulation is within the 5 components of the fruit of the Spirit. Being able to make sure you put yourself under subjection, being able to control these things, self-control. So you can, Goldman wrote, it's a secular thing. Forget about him. There's a biblical content part to it. How do you self-regulate? How do you look at yourself? So when you are, people know that you can control your emotions, you can check yourself. What does it do? You can be trusted, you can be seen as a person of integrity, somebody to be comfortable with, not somebody you are relating with and you are relating with in an ambiguous manner and all those kinds of stuff. That you are open to change. You are open to change. So you must know. So self-regulation, then now the third one is internal motivation. Internal motivation is just about passion. For reasons that people may not understand. And you are ready to do it and deliver value and solution, even without being paid. That's what we mean by internal motivation. Something that just inspires you on the inside. You have so much passion for it that go beyond money and status. It's like when I had the privilege to teach University of Lagos, to teach in postgraduate school, because I didn't apply, I was given a letter by the dean then to come and teach. I was so excited about it. I said, what did they say? They told me this. And I said, can they help me give it to the poorest student in class? For me to be invited to come and teach, I began to praise God. So I was so excited to be a teacher, to go and teach there. I saw it as an opportunity. So that's what I mean by passion. You are not even ready to be paid. It's also doing ministry today. When they said go to me, I said, how can I go to ministry? Am I called to do ministry? So I started. And by the grace of God, I'll be doing this ministry. And I'm doing it, I'm not asking for pay because I am enjoying what I'm doing. So internal motivation, what is it that internally motivates you? For you to be able to do things so excellently well without expecting any earthly reward. That is what the third leg of the Goldman 5 elements of emotional intelligence. Because of time, let me quickly move on to the fourth. It's called empathy. The ability to understand the emotional makeup of other people. That's empathy. To understand. That is so important because it's not to handle yourself alone. To handle other people, to be able to work with other people. So your capacity to understand, your ability to understand the emotional makeup of other people is what we call empathy. And that's the fourth with the Goldman typology. So here you hone skills in treating people according to their emotional reactions. There are some people when you talk to them, they are angry. Maybe when you write to them, they are less. When they do something in the public, you reprimand them, they are angry. So what do you then do? You talk to them privately. So empathy is about knowing how other people's emotions are, and then it conditions, helps you in the way in which you relate and work with such people. The final one is called social skills. That's the final one. And it's the proficiency in managing relationships and building networks. And the ability to find a common ground The kind of common ground Biden is trying to find with his other people. Common ground and be rapport. Social skill. Social skill is about ability to relate with others in such a way you can find a common ground. So social skills includes effectiveness with the evidence in leading change, in persuasiveness, the way you are able to persuade others, expertise in building and leading teams. All these are all honed within what Goleman call social skills. So I want to conclude with this. All these 5 actually can go into 4 bosses. 4 bosses. Now, number 1 boss is where self intersects. There is a convergence, intersection between self, yourself, and recognition. That is what now called self-awareness. Where self, you recognize what is there. You call it, that is cubicle. Emotional self-awareness, accurate self-assessment, self-confidence. That is the number 1. So the intersection between those 2. Now, then you have where self also intersects regulation. In other words, where you put boundaries in your life. That we can call self-management. And under there is self-control, is transparency, is adaptability, is achievement drive, is initiative. Now let me tell you the final 2. The last 2 I want to mention, where social, in how you relate to society and people, how it intersects the kinds of recognition you give them and they give unto you. Social awareness. There you then have empathy, that I mentioned earlier, organizational awareness, and service orientation. And finally, what I call where social intersect with regulation. In other words, your understanding of society and social norms, and understanding how those impact the way people think and impact their emotions, and how even your own emotions can be reconciled in that within that mix. We call that relationship management. And right in there in that box, you find inspirational leadership, developing others. You become an influence even without a title, without position. You are an influence to your generation, making impact. You are a change catalyst. You manage conflict. You build bonds. You build teamwork and collaboration, and so on and so forth. And that is where I want to conclude today's episode of The Wealthy Place. And that is the final topic in the series of knowing yourself. So this is the last part, and all of you, I want to wish you well, as you continue to be with us on this journey. God bless you, and bye-bye.